Welcome, everybody, to the Armchair Racers Podcast, Episode 1. I'm your host, Kenny Kibbey, along with my co-host, Austin Boelke. And we're trying something new on the channel tonight, today, this morning, whatever. And I'm going to get right into it. First, a little introduction to myself. If you haven't been to the channel before, if you have been to the channel, you probably know what I've been up to. Basically, I'm from Michigan, and I've always been interested in racing, so I decided to kind of combine my two favorite things, video gaming and racing, into one, and kind of become a racing game streamer. So I kind of got into streaming iRacing. That's what I've been doing. I gained interest in NASCAR really early on in life. Um, NASCAR actually ended up being a way that I used to learn my numbers and my colors and some of my words. I always played with the little NASCAR 1/64th diecasts. I still own them. I collect them. Got iRacing in 2017, which kind of completely changed my outlook on racing games. It's a totally different level. But as far as my iRacing resume, I currently race in Bootleg Racing League on Fridays and Saturdays. Just got done with the Podium Esports Cars Esport Late Model Tour. That's a mouthful. I raced in the Speed 51 Elite Modified Tour this year. I've done some different leagues in the Mid-South Virtual Racing League. I'm formerly driver in the Gear Jammers Truck Series, and I run all the endurance races every year with Western PA iRacing. So yeah, basically I enjoy Xbox gaming and PC gaming. I do have a PlayStation, but mainly Xbox and PC. And yeah, I just had a big interest in podcasts as well, and I listened to some different racing podcasts and decided that with the help of a friend, we could do our own. And that brings me to my partner.
Yeah, I'm Austin Boelke. I started watching NASCAR when I was about 3 years old. I saw Jeff Gordon's like 2001, 2002 like Flame DuPont NASCAR, and I thought like that's cool. Like I want that car. That's awesome. So my parents took me to the store. I got some NASCAR toys, the 1/64 scale diecast Kenny talked about. I got a lot of those from when I was little, still hanging around in my house. I even still collect them to this day. In fact, I bought one or two of them last night. Um, so yep, still buying those. Those are neat. When I was little, I played Dirt to Daytona on the PS2, and then I got the NASCAR Thunders. Technics came out. Those are really good games. NASCAR Heat came along, and then about that time I got iRacing, about 2019. And I got it because I watched Jimmy Broadbent doing all the endurance races and the road course stuff, and I had absolutely no want or need to do oval. But lo and behold, that's pretty much most of what I do now in iRacing. Incredible simulator. Right now, I'm racing in the BRL. I joined the A51 guys. That's Rogers 51 BRL Dirt MSVRL. I build setups and test them with flying arrows. I was in the ISCA league for a little while. Um, sort of aligned with Western PA, and then we're doing the Skidder Creek Racing League now.
So we kind of have a little bit of a schedule that we'll follow in every week's podcast, and the first point of business to go on with is the Hot Lap news, and there's kind of a lot to talk about in episode one. Might be a little bit overwhelming because we don't have just last week to go by. We have multiple weeks we could go by.
Like
Um,
the entirety of the universe up until just now.
yes, so we're going to cover the entirety of the universe up until now, and compress it into about 10 minutes. But um, the big thing for us is the NASCAR Championship weekend that just settled up, or this past week, or yeah, 1 week ago. Of course, we had the Truck Series. We can go by these series by series. First, the Truck Series race, Sheldon Creed. I'd like to think of your thoughts, Austin. Of first, did you expect Sheldon Creed to be a title contender this year? And going into this race, you think he was going to be the one to win the championship?
Well, no and no. Going into the season, I didn't think he was going to be a title contender, just because he's so young. But then as the season progressed, I was like, "Hey, this guy's pretty good." And then, but going into Phoenix, sure, he's a strong, title contender. Definitely, that's why he's in the championship four. But I really figured that Brett Moffitt had it all locked up. And he did. Brett got absolutely shafted by the guy that lined up behind him on that final restart. Got him really squirrely, and in my opinion, that's what cost him the championship. But what did you think about it, Kenny?
Yeah, it was definitely unfortunate for Brett Moffitt. I mean, he's such a good driver, man. I think he's criminally underrated. Um, just a lot of things didn't fall his way this year, and a lot of things did fall Sheldon Creed's way this year. Not to take anything away from Sheldon, he did a fantastic job. But going in, I thought that I thought Moffitt was peaking at the very right time. He just grabbed his first win of the season. I kind of thought he was going to be the guy. I thought if it was going to come down to like one of those late race restart deals, I thought that maybe Enfinger was going to be the championship winner. He seemed to be the most clutch out of everybody. Like what he did at Martinsville to get into the Final Four was really astonishing, because he really didn't have the best truck or the best tires even, and he still held everyone off. Um, but I mean, Sheldon had a good truck all night long at Phoenix, and when he pitted, I was like, ugh, I don't know if that's the right move, but man, he made up 7 positions in the first corner alone, and just really took it. He went up there and he took it. He wasn't gifted anything, and that really was a step up in his career. I think there was times in years past where he would be put in a position like that and he'd mess it up. He'd get into the wall, he'd hit another truck. But this time he went up there and he did everything perfect, and I think that's a huge stepping stone in his career just as a driver in general.
Yeah, the next one we have the Xfinity Series, Austin Cindric, and I don't think a lot of people were surprised by this. Were you surprised by it, Kenny?
Well, as the season went on, no. He didn't. There was a lot of times he made a lot of mistakes the years prior. But I mean, man, you got the best car in the field. I mean, arguably those two Fords were the best cars in the field all year long. So eventually, they were going to start having success. And of course, he's a road course guy, so he wins a bunch of the road courses. Um, but as the season went on, I mean, it kind of had to be either that 22 car or the 98. I was leaning more towards the 98. Um, but Austin Cindric was pretty well dominant as well.
Yeah, especially after he won that race at, what was it, Kentucky? He finally won a race on an oval,
Yep.
and he was like, that's when I knew, like, he's gonna be a serious contender because before that, I mean, he's got arguably one of the best cars in the field, but does he have that sort of talent when it comes to only turning left? But Chase Briscoe was really strong too. I was surprised he didn't go up there and nab it just because his oval background, and he really came out strong as soon as Darlington happened. He nabbed that win, and then he didn't stop winning.
Yeah, at the beginning of the year, I was thinking, oh boy, Phoenix, that falls right into Justin Allgaier's hands because he's been so good in there in the past. And but then as the season wore on, it became more and more apparent that he was kind of an underdog. It was kind of between the two Fords, and I still thought he was going to be good, but I think it was going to take something special for it not to be one of those two Fords. So I think out of the three main championships this season, I think um, that one was probably the least surprising that Cindric won it.
Yeah, and not to say that Justin Allgaier didn't have the talent or the car. I mean, his car was kind of slow, but just seems like one of his powerhouse tracks. I mean, he won there last year to catapult himself into the Final Four, and I figured he had a pretty good shot, and he did for a while. It just strategy cards didn't play out right.
So that brings us to Sunday with the Cup Series race, and that one was, I mean, really the biggest shocker was the week prior with Kevin Harvick not making the Final Four, Denny Hamlin barely squeaking into the Final Four, Chase Elliott winning to get in. Um, so you ended up with Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin, and the two Penske cars, Brad Keselowski and Joey Logano. Um, I knew Chase Elliott was good at Phoenix, but um, you know, last year at Phoenix was won by Denny Hamlin in the fall. But I've always had this feeling about Denny Hamlin, and it's with him not winning a championship. He's not clutch, and you get into these big moments, and he doesn't peak at the right time, and something happens either in or out of his control, and leads him to not win on the biggest stage, which is the championship. And sure enough, it happened again. He wasn't a factor the whole race.
Yeah, I mean, last year at Homestead with Denny Hamlin, it was the fact that they put like, I mean, a dining platter size piece of tape on his front end
I
for downforce or speed, and then he just ended up overheating.
I couldn't believe that they did that. When I saw that tape go on there last year, I knew immediately it was too much. I mean that was the biggest piece of tape I've ever seen.
I don't think you put a piece of tape on a car that's like that piece of tape was huge. I mean, like like a shoe sized almost. And you use that at like Daytona or Talladega, and that's the only tape you'd use, like the only piece.
But then, lo and behold, Chase Elliott goes up and I mean, last run he loses the lead and runs down Joey Logano and takes it back and just runs away from everybody. And just like Chase himself, what he was saying in his interviews, I was waiting for the caution. I really was. It would be so fitting for him to have that stupid restart and kind of get screwed out of it, but didn't happen. And we just ran away to the championship and in dominating fashion at the end, and it was really impressive.
Yeah, it happens every time to Chase Elliott. Either it's William Byron spinning out at the Coke 600, or every effing time it is Michael McDowell. Chase said it himself. The man cannot drive a wood screw. But I mean, he tried wrecking at Charlotte when Chase won that race. He did wreck like twice at the Roval. I don't know what he's doing. I don't know if he's got a personal vendetta against Chase, but there is something wrong with that man.
Yeah, it's something I never really never put two and two together on that one with the whole McDowell effect, I guess we can call it.
I just know, I mean, usually, and it was always one of those like C tier organizations like McDowell. Usually it was McDowell. Otherwise, it was somebody that like has no business being out on the track. They should really find these guys, in my opinion. If you're driving like just a shit tier organization car and you bring out a caution flag because you lose a tire or you just hit a wall. I've never seen a caution come out because somebody just glanced off of a wall. Like, give that guy the opportunity to get down the pit road. But to just call full course caution, like a yellow flag, that's just stupid in my opinion.
Yeah, I always hate when those Rick Ware cars end up causing cautions.
It is every time it's those
Yeah,
guys.
I
I
mean,
digress. I was super surprised Kevin Harvick didn't make the Final Four. Everyone considered him a lock, and really it's NASCAR's fault he didn't. I mean, he said his car was fine after Texas. I don't know what NASCAR was doing at Texas. You could see even in Harvick's onboard camera on his roof, everything was wet. The track didn't look wet, but there was rain on top of the cars, so I don't know what NASCAR was doing.
yeah, and also, there was even the visibility got terrible, and I mean, we've seen delays before just because of a low ceiling, because of fog, and we didn't get a delay here with this mist, and that's a really weird situation right there that you could say potentially cost him a championship, but
I
I
mean,
don't
I
know.
think so. He was leading the race for a while. He had probably one of the best cars. He's fantastic at Texas. And then he goes up and pancakes the right side of his car on the wall. These cars are so aero dependent. And I mean, to go from leading the race to running 15th to 18th at best, just that's not his style this year. He was way better than that.
Yeah, definitely. So moving on to a different series we like to cover here, IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship just got settled last night, and what a crazy, crazy race it was. Um,
I
as
mean,
we
flag to flag, it was insane.
Yeah, 12 hours of Sebring seemed like nobody wanted to win the thing. Every time leader would get out front, something would happen. You had, of course, the number 7 Penske DPI with Elio Castroneves on that team trying to win that championship. And right away, they got. I know they said originally they thought boost problems, but I think it was something else. Um, put them multiple laps down, and they're going to get last. They're locking up last place, basically. And then you had the 10 Konica Minolta Cadillac that needed to basically finish like fourth or fifth, and they were in position to do that, but they got a penalty right on the start by switching lanes before the start finish line. That put them behind, but they were still in contention. And then you had the 31 that had to win to get the championship, and they led. I don't know about the majority, but they led for a while um, until they had some dramas of their own with, of course, another Penske car spun out Juan Pablo Montoya and cost himself the race.
Yeah, I mean, that's not even the half of it. The 10 car got a penalty and then another penalty and then another penalty, and it really didn't seem like they even wanted to win the championship at that point.
Yeah, really, that first penalty, they could deal with that, but these penalties later on in the race, the pace is just so high you can't recover from that, and um, you know, going into and Pippo Durrani in the 31 car, he's so good at Sebring, and I know they had to win, but man, the area that he was trying to pass in it just wasn't there, and I don't know why he even really went for it. I mean, he was faster. He could figure out a way to get around him. I mean, at least keep him in the fight. But what he did just completely took him out of it.
Yeah, yeah, hated to see it.
Indeed, that's possibly your hate to see it moment of the week.
I think so. We'll add that. Also, the next series that we're going to cover is F1, and we made this script yesterday, and we put in there the championships, and I put probably F1. Sure enough, Lewis Hamilton won today. It was really interesting. He had to just barely beat his teammate Valtteri Bottas, and he didn't just narrowly beat him. Um, Valtteri didn't even make the podium. Unfortunately, it went green at 5:10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is the time zone Kenny and I are in. So there was no chance I was going to wake up for it. I tried. When I got up at like 7 o'clock, maybe 8 o'clock, I looked on my phone. The race was already done. Just chooshed. So, but Lewis Hamilton won. So of course he locks up the championship, 7-time title winner, equaling Michael Schumacher's record. Um, I believe Perez and Vettel were atop the podium with him. So good for Lewis Hamilton. He wins every race.
Yep. I do want to touch back on IMSA again with the GTD class. That was a crazy battle too. With you had the two Lexuses, Lexi, whatever, and they were leading. They were 1-2, and one of them had the chance. I think the one that was in second place had the chance to get a title. And they both go
Yep.
into the final corner, and they hit some fluids that were sprayed on the track by one of the Corvettes who broke down, and they both spin out and terminal damage for that title contending Lexus took them out. And then you had the 86 car, I think he got spun. Yeah, that's right. The Acura NSX, he got spun at one point.
By the Turner BMW.
Yep,
Yep.
yep. Completely dumped, but kept the car clean and had to kind of drive back through the field. And then all of a sudden you had the Porsche, Patrick Long. I forget who his drivers or his
I think
co-driver is, but
Hardwick. I forget who the third guy was, but
yeah. And so then all of a sudden they emerged as title contenders, and they ended up winning, right? They won that race, and
they
then
they did win the race. But because the '86 car, Meyer Shank Racing, was only in third, um, they were the ones, the favorites after the Lexi crashed out to win the championship because they didn't have to win the race. They could finish like third or fourth, and they would still tie for the championship. And I believe at that point they still would have won because they had won more races than the Porsche.
yeah, so they ended up winning by like a couple positions, and
I think one spot, maybe two or three.
yeah,
Um, but the Porsche. They did everything they had to do. I mean, they were leading the race. They won the race, but they couldn't get more points or positions if you're already in the front.
yeah. As the GTLM class kind of dwindles down in size, the GTD class is kind of becoming my favorite in IMSA, just because there's so many different manufacturers, a lot of different cars, teams, and you really don't know who's going to win on any given week.
I mean, last year we got the McLaren. That was awesome to see a new manufacturer enter the sport.
Yep.
This year, I believe we got the Aston Martins. Those are the new kids on the block. Really strong this year.
Yeah, one of those Aston Martins did really well at Sebring. I can't remember if they ended up finishing on the podium. I know they were up towards the front at one point.
If they weren't on the podium, they definitely got a top five, for sure.
Anyways, we go to one other major series that concluded a few weeks ago, and that was IndyCar. Scott Dixon wins yet another championship. What's that? It's his sixth, right?
I think it's sixth, yeah.
And you know Joseph Newgarden had a chance mathematically, um, but the Iceman, he really is like the Jimmy Johnson of IndyCar, and I he's one of those guys that I don't mind seeing him still winning. I I don't know about you, Boston, but a guy like Scott Dixon, he can win every single week almost, and I want other people to win too, but the guy's just so nice, he's so cool, and he's just so good that it's kind of interesting to watch him break records.
Yeah, he's really interesting because he's so cool under pressure and he doesn't get out and act like a jerk about it like somebody like Kyle Busch would. He definitely is the Jimmy Johnson of the series, so I don't mind seeing him win all the time, but I wish there was more parity in the series. And there was from time to time. Certainly his teammate, I think, won a race or two. The Penske Chevrolets won a couple races. How about the McLaren guys though? We're getting really, really close to winning on a consistent basis. I'm really excited for them next year.
Yeah, they're IndyCar's another one of those series where you really don't know who's going to win on any given week. I mean, obviously, the Penske guy's going to be strong, Scott Dixon's going to be strong, but there's times where, like everybody else, is kind of who knows. You know, you got these young guys coming up that are, like Alex Palou, um, and
Zach Veach.
yep. Well, he's out. He's out of the 26
Well,
car.
but he was like in it. I mean, he wasn't going to win, but like he was definitely going to challenge him. That's the one thing too. The slower guys, not necessarily slower guys, but like even the fast guys like Will Power, Scott Dixon, Joseph Newgarden, even Simon Pagenaud, they can be challenged during the race by one of the younger guys or more inexperienced guys in just a bit slower car. And it adds a lot more parity to the race. I mean, think about Mid Ohio. Scott Dixon finished 12th both times. That's his track.
Right. Yeah, you really don't know going into a particular weekend. You really don't know who is going to be good and who isn't. I
I
don't
mean, there's
know.
some guys that are locks, right?
Right.
Like Marcus Ericsson is, he'll be lucky if he cracks the top 5 or top 10, especially, right? I'm, I'm not that I don't like the guy, but like he's one of them dudes that's like, oh, he'll be lucky if he cracks the top 10 today. You know what I mean? Um,
I was
and
pretty.
Ryan Hunter Ray is like he flip flops great races and not so good races.
Yeah. One guy I was impressed with this year is Jack Harvey. He didn't always get the results he deserved, but taking that team um, and running up near the front with it, I thought that was pretty impressive.
Yeah, even Oliver Askew. I heard much of him beforehand, but he really did well this season.
I don't know if there's any other championships you wanted to talk about.
I don't think any more exist, do they?
Well, not the major ones, anyways. Not as far as motorsports go. I mean, there was the iRacing, um, the professional
Oh yeah,
Coke
the
series, but
Coke series. Yep.
I didn't really follow it that closely, so I don't really have that much input on it.
I didn't follow it, but I did watch the final race that they did, and I gotta say it was a came down to a nail biter of a finish, and it was like one person seemed like they were the heavyweight title winner just because they dominated the race, and a caution would come out, and then it would go to somebody else's hands, and then somebody would pit, and it's like, oh man, he's got the best tires. He'll win the race if he can get like a green white checkered and a green white checkered and then another green white checkered because you can't pass that many cars in a lap and a half or whatever. Um, so it was pretty neat to see. Good race though.
Now that was at Miami, right? They kept the series
Yeah,
at
I don't
Miami.
know why they did that. That was kind of stupid. Like if the real NASCAR is going to Phoenix, right? Why would you want to go to Homestead Miami Speedway and make yourself look like a joke? But
I could bet that they'll move it to Phoenix next season.
I really hope they do because it makes it seem really weird. Um,
Now I
but
wonder if they're going to change their schedule up a bunch, with NASCAR, the real NASCAR changing so much. That'd be interesting to see if they decide to, because they don't go to every race that the real NASCAR guys go to, so they can kind of pick and choose. But I mean, are they going to pick a place like COTA or Road America? Um,
I
that'll be
think they
interesting to
will
see.
because they're already on the service. It makes it really easy.
Yeah, but they got a
But
limited number of events to pick too, so we'll see.
right, we'll see how many road course events they do. I don't remember if they did the Daytona road course, but that would have been cool to see. I mean, there's some races that they just can't do, like the road course in Nashville, because they're doing that, right? I think
No,
like
that's
on the
IndyCar.
streets.
IndyCar's doing
Oh,
that.
IndyCar's doing that. I thought
Hmm.
NASCAR was too.
They're
Um,
doing Nashville Super Speedway, which the
yes.
iRacing guys can't do because that's not in the service
Yep. Yet.
yet. Hashtag soon.
Yep. We're getting there.
So that kind of brings me into our next segment, which is iRacing news. As we said in our introduction, Austin and I both run in Bootleg Racing League. We both run on Fridays and Saturdays. Fridays being a dirt series, Saturdays being a pavement series, where there's 3 events per night or well, each week I should say. On Saturdays, you have street stocks and
SK Modifieds.
SK Modifieds, and then the Grand National ARCA series cars. Um, also,
Friday night, there's the dirt street stocks, and then there's the dirt late models, and then the winged sprint cars. Kenny doesn't do the last two, um, but I can't blame him.
yeah, I'm only in there for the broadcasted race, I suppose. Um, yeah, as far as the dirt series for me, anyways, from my perspective, qualified really well at Williams Grove in the street stocks. Um, like qualified third, won my heat race, was feeling really good, and then going into turn 1 and 2, I think on the very first lap, I got way too sideways and gave up all my track position and took the rest of the race just to get back up to like sixth, and then on the last lap I made another mistake and lost 2 more spots, so I ended up I think eighth. Which so it was. I don't like Williams Grove anyways, but it wasn't a very fun time for me.
Yeah, I remember all those barreled down into turn one, and I saw some cars getting sideways, and I saw way ahead of me an orange car with a 14 on the side facing the wrong direction. I was like, ah, jeez, you hate to see it, but we kept it straight. There wasn't a single caution that entire race.
Yeah, really, I was gonna need a caution to get me back up into there, but I don't know. Let it.
I hate Williams Grove. I think
Yeah,
everyone does.
don't care for it either. Um, how was the racing itself in the other two events that night?
It was pretty good. The dirt late models. I mean, I should preface this with saying I am not a factor at all in dirt unless it's the B main and I get lucky and I start up front. Um, I've won a couple B mains, B main Boelke. That's the unofficial nickname on dirt.
Nice.
Yep. Um, the racing was good. It was actually a lot of close racing in the heats. The B main Bobby Rafferty and I battled it out for the B main win because Bobby didn't do anything in his heat race, oddly enough. Um, it was good racing. The dirt, the winged dirt midgets, sprint cars, racing, and that was really good. Obviously, I'm in the back, so I just know it was good racing because I could see them on the relative trading spots and being at least pretty close to each other.
Who won those two features?
I think probably John Hine and maybe Steven, but I don't remember for sure. I mean, honestly, I'm just there to fill the field. You
Right.
know, I enjoy the atmosphere and the people there so much, especially on Saturdays. I don't mind showing up and spending my time getting sideways on Fridays.
So then we go to Saturday. First event of the night was the street stocks. And you and I are a lot more of a factor on Saturdays than we are Fridays. Definitely, pavement side is where we shine.
Oh yeah,
Um,
definitely.
so Saturday we go to the street stocks. For me, I started middle of the pack. Well, top half of the pack. I would have been like seventh, sixth, eighth, somewhere
Oh,
in there.
that would have been like top third. We had like 25 cars. It was a
Right.
huge
Yeah.
number.
I think it was like 23 cars.
But you definitely caught the invert though.
Yes. So, um, trying to make my way through the field. Um, gosh, that street stock race is kind of a blur to me all of a sudden.
Well, we should also explain too in BRL on the pavement side, each race is set by the last race's finishing results, except for the top eight. The top eight are inverted. So if you finish first, you're going to start eighth, and if you finished eighth, you're going to start first. So there's an invert to catch, and it makes it really interesting. Um, so there's like two races. There's a race for eighth and a race for first. Um, and usually we're pretty good about the Dale Earnhardt 100% rule of like give it all you got. If you're in eighth, then you can get seventh or sixth. You go for it.
So I'm looking at the race results from this past week just to kind of refresh my mind. Um, Ended up P3 in that one with zero incidents. So I think, if I remember correctly, oh yeah, we ran two. Yeah, that's right. Okay, we had two quick cautions, and then we didn't have anything.
Yeah, I mean my race turn one or not turn one, lap one, turn three. I just like went into turn three. All of a sudden my car just scooted sideways. No feeling in the wheel. I don't know what the fuck happened. But I was like almost hit the pit wall. Um, and then I started going. But my problem was I got a unsafe pit exit because when I spun out and stopped off the track, I passed the plane of the pit entry cone, and I just pulled back out onto the track. So I got a penalty, and instead of asking for Lowell to reset it, I was like, "Fuck it, it's my own stupidity that got me put in this position." So I just went down pit road, served the penalty. I was like 5 laps down. Not a fun time, but it be what it be.
Oh, I had my mic muted there. Sorry. Basically, I started in eighth and just followed James and JR
No,
through the
you were
field.
talking the whole time. I heard you.
Well, yeah, you could hear me, but my stream couldn't.
Oh,
I've been
jeez.
muting and unmuting just the on and off. It was just that little
Oh,
bit that my stream wouldn't have heard me, so no biggie.
professionals.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, Matt's in the chat by the way. Woo
Oh,
podcast.
baby.
But yeah, basically just followed James and JR through the field, and then James was pressuring JR, and I just couldn't. I was at least even with him, and I just couldn't get around him. It was so hard to make up runs at Southern National, and I was really surprised that the street stock race was so clean. I thought that was going to be the biggest of a wreck fest, and lo and behold, the other two races ended up being the wreck fests. And head to the SK modifieds, and um, that wasn't too fun on my end. I still had a decent recovery, but um, pretty early on in the race, Steven Spies like got out of shape and uh, basically smashed into me, and I had to go to the back of the field. Didn't want to take a fast repair because I was already a lap down and was way down on power. And then,
Like criminally underspeed down the straightaway.
oh yeah, and I was less than 2 seconds away from being lapped again, which would have taken me out completely. And then we got another uh, caution, which gave me a lucky dog and got me back up in there. Got my fast repair, and was able to decently make myself get through the field. At least I got into the top eight invert. I wasn't going to be in the top eight coming into the white flag, but Mark Herzog and Donnie Moore wrecked each other, and they were in the top eight, and I passed both of them, so I went from ninth to seventh, and got really lucky.
Yeah, for me, I think it was like lap two. I was in the top lane, and I was looking at the apex and the cars in front of me, where they were going to be and where we are going to sort out when we went back onto the back straight. And somebody must have got into Brian, or it was a yellow car for sure. It might have been Adam Gable. But he spun around, and I just looked back up in front of my car. I just looked away for a split second. By the time I looked back, they were already spinning out. So I jammed on my brakes and ended up hitting James Lowe. Um, and my car was just destroyed. Like as criminally underpowered as you were down the straightaway. It was just awful.
Yeah, so I moved up to fourth place in points, but it's basically a 10-point gap from second down to fourth. And then there's four more drivers that are within 6 points of me. I'm not really running for points in that series just because I didn't.
I
I
think you
didn't.
missed two races, right, or just the one?
I think I just missed one. Um, yeah, J.R. Shepard won all three races this week, and he won that one. So I started seventh, ended up finishing seventh. Todd Liston will be on the pole next week for that one.
So I
But
guess then that takes us to the Grand National, right?
yes, sir. And there was, by the way, 8 cautions in the SK race, and there was
Oh yeah, it was a caution fest.
10, I believe, in the Grand National race, which is
I was
just
3 laps down in the SK race, and by the end of the race, I was on the lead lap.
did you end up going a lap down in the Grand National at all?
No, nope.
So beginning of the Grand National race. So go to preface this. Going in, I'm the points leader by 5 points over James Lowe and Justin Morton, and I'm starting. I don't know, like sixth. Oh yeah, I'm starting sixth. I remember that because I was going to be seventh, and then Tim Shinowski didn't show up, so I was comically angry at him because he didn't show
Yeah,
up and put me to the outside. Put you to the
I was
outside
right
too.
there with you.
Yeah. So I got down to the bottom, and there was a wreck early on, and at the same time, I wasn't even a part of this wreck. I was ahead of it, and I, I, the corner before, I lit up the tires to try to get on the inside of somebody, and going into the next corner, hard braking, I just had no grip, and coming off the corner, I just kind of had a lazy spin, and had to grab reverse. We had the caution come out. I had to wait for the whole field. I had to grab reverse and get going, and I barely stayed on the lead lap. But that put me all the way back to last, basically, and I had to come back through the field with, slightly wounded tires. But was able to dodge everything and come back to third, which was, I couldn't believe it. I lost 1 point to James, and I gained some ground on, I gained a point, I think, on Justin, and I couldn't be happier.
The funniest thing about that too was when you spun out, usually they would have looked at that and the broadcast did see and say that you spun out. But while Kenny was spinning out, there was a huge wreck on the front stretch. I mean, just like huge, just ginormous. It involved like probably 3/4 of the field. Everyone basically behind Kenny was involved in this wreck.
Yeah, there was a lot of big ones. I went and watched the broadcast back over, and a lot of, like the broadcast was saying, a lot of chrome horns being used, and I think it was unintentionally, but
Oh
man,
yeah, they were all unintentional.
yeah, just a lot of guys just hitting each other in the backs and spinning each other out. The cars are really sensitive to that stuff, so um,
I will say too though, the broadcast called pretty much everything and every wreck wrong that they could have called wrong.
yeah, the ones that were um, that were like definitely somebody's fault. Seems like every time they called them incorrectly. Um, so yeah, oh man, looking at the results, you ended up one spot out of the top eight behind Mike Holloway.
Yeah, it was a rough time. Well, every time we'd restart, I'd be like, my lane just wouldn't go. Like for whatever reason, the person in front of me or the person in front of that guy was just a lot slower than I think they should have been. And the top line did really start to come in as the race went on. If we had gone green for a lot longer, I think it would have been more like South Boston, where you can get that, you really get that top lane rolling.
And our fastest lap was on the same lap, lap 10. Look at
Oh, that's pretty cute.
that. um, I didn't know if you wanted to talk on about Skater Creek Racing League. I don't really have any input on it. I'm not in that series.
We can't. You should be, buddy. I don't know why you're not. It seems really weird for you to not be in there because you are a road racer and you're a darn good one too. So I don't know why you're not in there.
Because I gotta get up.
But it's like at 11 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. I don't know.
Like look, I'll go on record saying this. If you don't get up before 11 o'clock on Saturday or Sunday, you are degenerate. Like get up, live your day. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean,
Like
the thing is, like, I get up, but that's usually about the time I'm doing like my weekend chores. the
no, I know.
laundry,
That's
dishes.
usually about the time I always do mine.
Yeah. Um, but another league that I'm in right now is called the NEP Shift Marketing and Design Grand National Series. Mouthful. Bunch of guys out east, NEP, New England, Pennsylvania. That's what it stands for. They bunch of short track racers, current and former racers. They get together and have this league, and Zane Farrell, one of our friends, is kind of helps run that league, and they had a I volunteered to be a race director for them last season, and then this season I'm like, man, I don't know if I really want to do the race directing that much, but I really want to race with you, and they let me in, which is really cool because I'm like the most Western person in that whole league, being from Michigan. But
He's even on the west side of Michigan too, folks. Don't let him lie to you.
yes, you got a West Sider and an East Sider in this podcast. Um, but they let me in, and I've been really competitive in there, and had some really good races so far. Last week we were at, this past week we were at New Hampshire, and not my favorite track at all. I don't really like it at all, but
Trash. Just a
yeah,
horrible track.
it's the Magic Mile minus the magic. It's just a mile. Um,
How can you call it magic? It's killed two people.
that is true.
At least.
Voodoo magic, maybe.
Maybe.
But like, not my best track, and the fast guys were extra fast. I was not as fast as them, so I had to do something different. So I took some strategy, and um, when they all pitted, I was like a 55 lap race. You get one set of tires. I pitted, or they pitted. I did not. Stayed out, took the lead, and held everybody off until I don't know. It was somewhere around between 5 and 10 laps to go. I got passed, but um, ended up third, and I've been just hitting third places in these leagues like it's going out of style, but I can't, which keeps me in the points hunt, but I can't seem to get any wins anywhere. But so we're still, and of course the two people I finished behind were top two in points. Um, but real quickly, going to the Cars Esport Tour recap. Uh, Finished fourth in points in that. Podium Esports, you guys are probably familiar with them. They broadcasted the whole season, and it's kind of a dying series, which is kind of sad. Participation dwindled at the end, and I basically got a fourth in points because I was there every week, and um, but it was fun. Late model stocks, didn't get a win in there either, but plenty of top fives. I don't think that they're going to have another one next year. They're not affiliated with the Real Cars Tour anymore, so sad to see it go. But I'm glad that Matt and I both ran in that. Matt got top 10 in points too. Matt Shinosky, and so I'm glad we were both able to run that together.
I think that's all the iRacing stuff. I know in SCRL, we had a lot of people show up this week. I think it was two classes, GTEs and GT3s. There were 10 GTE cars, only three GT3s, but that is what it is. Still looking for new guys. Second race ever for that. Good race, though. Mostly dominated by the Shanoskis. I was running a hot third place. Absolutely nothing for Bobby and Tim because they were too fast, like a second a lap faster than the rest of the field. I got taken out. And then Matt scooted on by. He got himself a podium.
Then I don't know about you, Austin, but some upcoming races for me. Going to be running the Snowball Derby, the official Speed 51 Snowball Derby next week. Um, and there's a race I'm running with NEP guys next week too. Qualifying week, qualifying day for me is on Tuesday. I may stream that. Last chance races are on Thursday, and then the big race is on Friday, I believe. Super late model event. So those will be fun. And then of course I know Austin is too. We're looking forward to the endurance races in 2021. First being the 24 Hours of Daytona.
Yeah, it should be a fun time. We're gonna have the Corvette for the entire season. That's a fantastic car.
Yeah, I haven't actually raced in that yet. Not sure what Western PA guys are going to do. If we're either going to do the Corvette or the LMP2, probably. We ran the LMP2 at Petit Le Mans. Really fun car. I mean, that car is just blazingly quick. But what was that you said about the Corvette? That it does something. The way you described it.
I don't know. Like
Um,
a long time ago. I forget what I
yeah.
said. I said like Zane said it slapped.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I know I said another funny word, but I forget what it was for the life of me. I can't remember, but I know it was funny. We tried to remember what it was before, but it hauls the mail. I mean, the car is super fast. Even on baseline, it's so controllable. You really know what to expect, especially if you have like even a decent setup. You can do really well in that car.
Right.
And at least Daytona 2 is more viable with the LMP2 because Petit Le Mans is not a place where you want to be in a super fast car navigating a bunch of slower cars. And you guys didn't even get to experience that because your split, if I remember correctly, was all LMP2s, right?
Yeah, we had like 42 LMP2 cars.
That's crazy.
It was nuts. Just too popular of a car, led to that. But still a fun race though. But yeah, I'm excited to get into that Corvette next year for sure. Transitioning now. We don't always cover only racing over here. Oh, what's up, Adam? Adam's in the chat along with Matt. Matt also says that the Corvette slaps.
Ah, yes, it does slap. Yes.
um, but yeah, the new games that have come out: Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. Those just came out. Those are really the big ones. Dirt 5, Need for Speed Hot Pursuit Remastered, which was a remaster of a 2010 game, and Forza Motorsport, kind of a preview into that. But I started playing AC Valhalla, and gosh, I'm addicted to it. The open worldedness of it, um, like it's a beautiful game, and I like the historical side of it, being the Vikings and just being in that historical era, I guess. And they really do pride themselves on being at least kind of accurate with the architecture and the location and the map and that kind of thing. But COD Black Ops Cold War I have downloaded, but I haven't played yet. Been busy with Assassin's Creed.
You were supposed to.
Supposed to, yeah, I was. Yeah, my friends they wanted me to play, and but I was busy preparing for this. I at least used
Yep.
it as an
And watch
excuse.
Sebring.
Yes, and watching
And being a
Sebring.
bad friend.
Yep. Well, it's kind of in my nature, really. Dirt 5 I played, and it's okay, but it's more arcadey. It's not the Dirt Rally series anymore. I mean, Dirt Rally is its own series now, which is simulation. Dirt 5 is a lot more arcadey, and it's okay, not fantastic. Need for Speed Hot Pursuit Remastered. I played that game back when it was new, so kind of a nostalgia effect for me. Not much to it. I mean, you got cops, you got racers. You either race and try to avoid the cops, or you play as a cop and you try to stop the racers. There's not much else to it, but it's pretty fun. And then, Austin, you got any information on the new Forza game?
Well, I have three tidbits of information because that's all they've given out. Very, very cryptic. There is at least three cars, and there is one turn at Laguna Seca, and that's it. I don't know when it's going to come out. Nobody knows. I was really hoping it would come out when they release the new Xbox, which, by the way, I don't know if you've been trying to get it, but I've been trying to get it for like a month, and no luck. One person I know got one. I know they've allegedly released a lot, but I haven't gotten one, so I'm pretty ticked about that, but it is what it is. Really looking forward to Forza Motorsport, though. Question for you, though, Kenny. When you play the Assassin's Creed games, Valhalla being the newest, are you like, do you sneak around and try to kill the people? Or do you just go in like guns a blazing and kill everybody as fast as you can?
So this is how it usually goes. I sneak in, right? I want I want to use stealth, right? Because a lot of the kills are one-hit kills if you can assassinate. Sneak in, and usually at probably if I'm in like some compound, and if usually I'm about a third of the way clear. That's usually when I just inadvertently blow my cover, and then I have to go guns ablazing and you know start slashing people. But
Is it
um,
like you walk in and you step on a twig or like a leaf, like a really, really crispy, just like dead, like it's been dead for a while on the ground, like all flailed open, and you step on that, just and you
well,
alert everyone? Or are you the kind of killer that like bumps into a table and knocks a glass on the floor?
well, let's just put it this way. Usually, it's relatively noticeable if, for like from a guard's perspective, if one of his buddies is in broad daylight and he just gets his throat slit open.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, so usually I end up I think that this guy's alone, and so I kill him, and then there's a dude right there, and he's like, "What?" And just totally, yeah. I'm like, "God dang it!" And then I'm like, "Well, gotta kill you. Sorry."
You hate to see it.
Yeah. Um. But yeah, with the Forza Motorsport thing, if there was an exclusive Forza Motorsport game coming out with the new Xbox, I'm pretty sure I probably would have like done everything I could to get the new Xbox. But because that didn't happen, I'm really kind of just sitting here waiting until there's a reason for me to get the new Xbox. With exclusives and stuff like that. If there's not any exclusives, then why bother? At least for now.
Yeah, that's where I was. I was doing everything I could to get it because I figured it'd be like a release game with it, to coincide with the release of the new Xbox Series X. But it turns out it isn't, and it's not. And we don't know when it's going to come out for probably a while. I know Halo Infinite was going to be a release title, and then they seem to have botched the shit out of that. So that's going to come in 2021 if they're lucky. I don't know how you have like 5 or 6 years to do something, and it just like is a turd
Yeah, not sure.
personally. Because like the Halo 5 came out when we would have been like freshmen in college. I know because I was. And it's been like 5 years since I was a freshman in college. And there's been no Halo game since then, other than like Halo Wars 2, which to be honest is a totally different ballgame.
Yeah, never been a fan of the Halo Wars series. It's just not my style. It's not. I'm not gonna call it a bad game. It's just not something I'm into.
No, like it's a great game if you like that top-down style of like commanding people to do stuff. But I'm typically not the general kind of guy telling men to go die and force their wives to be widows. I'm the kind of guy that gets told to go and kill people on the ground. But that's just the video games I play, I guess.
Yeah, and then the last Assassin's Creed game, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which is based on ancient Greece. Counting the DLC and stuff, I spent over 100 hours on that game, and I still technically haven't finished the second DLC. Just so much open world stuff that you can do, and I'm expecting the same out of Valhalla. And so far, so good. The map's huge, and there's so much stuff to explore and do, and I try to hit everything.
I don't know if you look at it the same way as I do, but when it comes to like me buying a game or playing a certain game or a type of game, I often try to look at it as for every dollar I spend, I expect to be entertained for like an entire hour. And usually with the games I play, because I generally know what I'm getting myself into, it's either like racing a first-person shooter or something. So usually I know because I look at it that way. Like if I were out on the streets in like a really, really like shitty part of town and I had $1 in my pocket and I was bored, right? I could walk up to like a bum on the street and be like, "Hey, here's $1, entertain me for an hour." You know what I mean? And so if I can get 60 hours of entertainment out of a game I spent $60 for, money well spent.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like the way that I judge if a game's like legitimately good or not is when I play it, is the time flying by, or does it seem like slow? You
It
know?
doesn't move and you're grinding.
Yeah. Or like I'm playing this and I'm like getting sick of it. Or am I playing this and I'm like, oh man, I gotta go to bed, or oh, I can't play this any longer.
Right, like, am I just gonna be dying from like a gut buster? Like if this dude I paid to entertain me for an hour hopped in a shopping cart and ran it into a wall, like that seems funny to me, but I don't know.
Nice.
Like some of those vines, in the parking garage and
Oh
you're in a
yeah.
shopping cart. Yeah, good times, good times. That's why we need stupid people.
So you think you can't live with them, you can't live without them, kind of thing?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, they're the suckers that make other people a lot of good money.
Yeah, it is true.
So we'll see. I've been playing a lot of Forza Horizon 4 a lot too, because there's the Horizon Backstage Pass, and apparently you get free cars. I haven't tested it out yet, but it's like one per customer. But I only have one pass. I don't know if the pass lasts me forever if I get like some just dog shit car, like a Volkswagen from the 70s, and it's like, well, that's what you spent your pass on. Good luck. See you later, idiot.
Godspeed.
Kicked out the door.
Yeah, I played Forza Horizon 4 so much. Basically, finished the story and stuff, and there's still little things that I could do in that game, but I don't know. It's still like if I had to go play it again, it'd be still fun, but it's one of those games where I kind of feel like, in my opinion, I'm kind of like it's just kind of complete. And it's not in reality, but to me, it's like it's complete enough. I'm ready for the next game.
Yeah, well, I mean, they really should have come out with one like a year ago. I mean, Forza Motorsport 8 should have come out last year around like September, October. So for them to still have not released the new Forza Motorsport is pretty much a joke. But I
Yeah.
guess that's what happens when Forza Motorsport 7 on release day was terrible.
Well, I just hope it's that much
It
better.
better be good.
Yeah. And speaking of terrible, rants and
Oh,
reviews time. It's gonna be probably your favorite segment of the whole podcast.
oh, I get riled up, let
Okay.
me tell you.
So, um, our first bit, and these are kind of equal to both of us. I know sometimes you'll have a rant and I'll have a rant, but these ones we're kind of like wholeheartedly in agreement on. Is first is NBC's coverage of the NASCAR, really the NASCAR playoffs in general, but the championship race. And I want to hear your thoughts first, and
Every
then I'll come
race.
up with mine.
Just every race that NBC covers for NASCAR is just terrible. The problem is you have storylines that get repeated and they never come up with new ones. Okay. And then first off, might I add, because I'm going to harp back an entire year, but like every time they came to or from a commercial in a NASCAR race, they played Tom Petty's Running Down a Dream. It's cool for like the first race, but after the second race, I was sick and tired of it. And they never introduced another song the entire time, except at Darlington. They had it was the throwback weekend. I believe they played something from Van Halen, right? So that's just terrible. Kenny, if you would like to give a point, you can.
Well, I also just realized that I set my streaming title to streaming iRacing.com, even though I'm not playing. But I guess
Ah, jeez, you
it
screwed the pooch.
it applies enough. I mean, I get this.
Adam and Matt came in here looking for iRacing.com, and instead they just see some cars,
Yep, some pictures. Like that's not even an iRacing.
a bunch
Um,
of pictures and a slideshow, and two idiots talking. Yep,
yeah,
that
yep,
says false advertising. Matt, you should sue him.
yep, yeah. So next week I'll have to put it into the just chatting segment or area and see if we get any more people watching. Probably gonna be about the same viewership anyways, but
Some
be what it
armchair
be.
podcasters.
But anyways, on the NBC thing, I I don't like their coverage in general. I like like you said, I don't like that they take a storyline and they hang on to it and they drag it on for like forever, for the whole year. Um, they bring it up at the end of these races. They bring it up every time they talk about a certain driver. Um, but I think I have the biggest problem, and to be honest with you, I think if a different network did it, they would probably make the same mistake. But when we're in the playoffs, I know obviously all the focus is on the playoff drivers, but it's too much. They really do need to still focus on all the drivers. What if a guy who's not a playoff driver is having a really good run? What if he's winning the race? And it really seems like even if these guys are having good runs, they just don't talk about them. I felt really bad kind of for Clint Boyer in the last 2 weeks. He had top 10 runs. I don't remember if he actually finished top 10 in the last race, but hardly mentioned the guy. He gave him one little segment along with Matt Kenseth, like, oh, this might be Matt Kenseth's last race, and then that was it. Um, but I felt bad that I mean, even Jimmy Johnson, they didn't hardly talk about him either because he wasn't, I mean, that he wasn't a playoff driver, and he had a good car at
He had a
Phoenix.
fantastic car at Phoenix. He finished fifth.
Yeah,
I mean,
I, I just hate that they take things and they're really tunnel vision about them. Um, I don't mind the guys in general. Rick Allen was fantastic with the Truck Series, and
on speed.
I think yes on speed. And maybe it's the way that he's directed by NBC. Maybe it's because of his colleagues that he's with now. I don't know, but I don't like
Maybe he
him in
got
the
in a
Cup Series.
motorcycle accident and it messed up his brain.
Could have been.
I mean, he speaks really slow. Like, he's lucky if he gets out like 5 words a minute.
Yeah, and he always says it like and then his thought. It's like as if he's kind of trying to
Coming
think what
out
to
of the
say.
final bank turn at the Charlotte Roval. Like, Rick, you call that the last turn?
Yeah,
That's fine. Just leave it at that.
yeah.
Second to last, right? I mean, NASCAR 3 and 4. You know, whatever. He talks really slow though.
And the other rant that we have this week is about IMSA, WeatherTech Sports Car Championship specifically, with teams coming into the sport and then going back out, or coming in, changing cars, changing back, leaving. Um, you know that you can expand on it, Austin, but it's just there's a lack of like consistency as far as the teams go in the sport.
It really just rubs me the wrong way because they come into the sport and I'm sure they put a lot of money and effort into what they do, but they come in and they do it for like 3 years and then they just leave. Look at like BMW and Porsche. I mean, they come into IMSA, even Ford too, for that matter. They come in, they have a good couple of years, they win a lot of races, and all of a sudden, like, you know what? Jobs are cool, but what if all the people working for us in IMSA didn't have them? And then they just pull out. And I'm not a big fan of that personally. You can make the point of saying like that's just what the Ford GT does, but like really, like Chip Ganassi is like, well, now that Ford's not helping me, I'm out. See you, boys. You know, like I don't know if he looked into getting somebody else or trying to keep those people in their jobs or what happened with that, but they pulled out. And then you got Porsche. I don't know if COVID just hit them really hard in the Americas, but they've pulled out of IMSA. They're still in WEC though. I don't understand that because they just won the championship. They developed a whole brand new car, and they're pulling out.
Going back to the NBC coverage too, Adam brought up a good point in the chat. He said they don't really interview guys after the races, or they cut away from for local news. Totally agree with that. I've seen countless times, like back when I was a kid, they you would see on TV, unless it was time constraint. I totally get that if they're under a time constraint they have to leave. But when they aren't under a time constraint, you used to see basically back to back to back to back interviews of like the whole top five. And there were times this year, like I think especially in the Xfinity series that I saw it, where there was a guy like a Ryan Sieg or like or even like if a nobody guy finishes in
Like
the
an
top
underdog.
10. Yeah, even like a top 10. In the past, they would go and they would talk to that guy because they knew it was such a great run. Um, like Josh Williams grabbed like a couple top tens this year, and I wanted to see an interview with that guy, and they didn't do one. Um, and the people who don't get interviewed all the time, those are the guys I want to see. We started seeing Ryan Sieg more because he was running up front more, but like Josh Williams or I think is his name, the '92 car. Williams is his last name, anyways. Um, but Brett Moffitt had good runs in the Xfinity Series, and they really hardly ever talked to him.
I think it stems from two NBC is on, and I don't mind it because I understand it from the business side of things. The longer they take up with NASCAR, the less you can get the local news. And I realize NASCAR isn't everyone's favorite sport. It's not like football, so I can understand them wanting to cut to the local news. But the problem is, back in the day, the winner would do a burnout, and while he was celebrating, they would go down pit road and they would interview the guys that finished like second to fifth, maybe some of the guys in the top 10 that wanted an interview. Obviously, it wouldn't have been like Kyle Busch unless he finished like second or third, because at that point, I don't believe he's obligated by NASCAR to give an interview. So he'd walk off to go pout like the baby he is, right? He's getting better at that, though, by the way. And then they go to victory lane, and you'd see the winner jump out of his car, throw around some Pepsi or some Gatorade or something, hop back down onto the ground, and he'd get an interview. But now, like, the guy does a burnout, Rutledge Wood or some other idiot runs up there and like, "Oh, that was a great race. Do you know how you did that? How'd you do that? Do you have any idea how that happened?" And like, it's great we can talk to Kevin Harvick for the 20th time this season, and it's cool to see him. But like, can we talk to the rest of the people too? I don't understand that.
Yeah, Adam brings up the point too that when Harrison won at what was it, Texas, I think it was. They didn't really have an interview. They just had his dad call him on the radio, and
Or Martinsville. It might have been Martinsville too. I don't know. I forget which one.
but yeah, that was yeah. I think maybe you're right.
The least amount of effort possible is what NBC likes to put in.
Yeah,
And I don't remember what Fox did. And of course, the last time we saw Fox, it was like the heightened COVID area. So like everything had to be super strict and you couldn't get too close to people. But I remember when the race got over, they'd talk to Chase, they'd talk to Kyle. We even saw Ryan Blaney squirt water at his mask after the Coke 600, I believe.
oh yeah, one of
Um,
them races. I want to bring
and
this up
we
too, real
haven't
quick
seen
too.
that.
As far as Fox goes, a little bit of a rant on Fox. As you know, in the Truck Series, they typically have one, maybe two reporters every week. That's it. And the one who was full time, I'm pretty sure, like every week, was Alan Cavana. Found out this past week that he lost his job with them. He's not with Fox next year. I thought Alan Cavana was fantastic, and I have no idea why he's not going to be a part of their crew next year, and that kind of angers me, really. I hope he finds a place somewhere in reporting, and it comes back to the top three NASCAR series, but I don't see a reason why they would downsize when they already only have basically one full-time truck reporter.
They might. I mean, they could also have gotten rid of him to make a spot for someone else that's newer.
Good.
They could have done that. I doubt it. We'll see what happens. I have noticed for it, it's Fox. It seems like has been downsizing. I'd be willing to bet though, Alan Cavana could find a job at NBC, and maybe do some of their track pass stuff, or do something along with racing. But we'll see. I wasn't a big fan of him. I didn't think he was like all that in a bag of chips or crack. But he's just okay, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, he at least did the job. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Matt
He
says you
did the
got to
job
afford to
better
pay
than most.
Clint, which
I mean,
is
I think he's better than Rick Allen. I'll go out there and say that because he structured his sentences. I mean, Rick Allen talks this fast, and it's stupid. Like, I don't know if he's got Dane Bramage or what. His voice is immaculate. I mean, such a great voice this man has, and it's a shame it gets ruined by his brain being as stupid as it is.
jeez.
And everybody feels this way
I don't
that I've
think
talked to, at least.
I don't think we're gonna have Rick Allen on this show anytime soon.
If we do, I'll ask him if he is Dane Bramage.
Well, I mean, even if we did, I can't afford to have this podcast be 4 hours long just to get an interview in with him. So,
That's fair, yeah. Got
but
shit to do.
yeah, Matt says gotta afford to pay Clint to get, so that's why Alan Cavana's leaving. It
I
might
guess.
be,
I don't know.
it could be. Um,
I wonder how much money they make. It'd be cool as heck to be a broad to like call races. I think that'd be really cool. I think you and I'd be great at it.
I think so too. I've pretended to do that by myself before, and I do that occasionally on my live streams, and I
When
have
I was
fun
a
doing it.
kid, I did that when I played with my little cars.
At some point in my life, I want to get into like maybe I'll get away from league racing a little bit more, and I'll get more into broadcasting. I dabbled with that with GSRC, Global Sim Racing Channel, a little bit this year, and it was really fun. I just have a hard time making time for it when I'm trying to focus on different leagues I'm racing in and stuff like that.
I really think we could as long as we got a good director. Maybe we kick Justin Prince and Devin Henry out of the booth at GSRC and they can let the two of us idiots up there for a race.
Yeah, we single-handedly go, hey, it could be like a driver broadcast, like
It could.
what Fox has done.
Yes.
Which that I think is really cool, and it's cool
That's
that the drivers themselves are up for it. I mean, that's to be honest. I mean, that's difficult and potentially embarrassing. Them going out and doing that, and they go and they have fun with it every time.
Oh yeah, Clint Boyer had a great time with the trucks. He was really good at it. One person I was surprised just how not good but great they were. I felt like Kurt Busch was really good at broadcasting the Truck Series races, and he had a great time doing it.
It was interesting too that he was there so many weeks this year. I don't.
I don't know if that was they had an opening or they were like, you know what, you're good, and Ryan Blaney said he didn't really want to do it or something, so we'll have you back or what. But
Yeah, I don't know if maybe they decide to just stick with one driver because of the whole COVID thing, and just like, okay, if we're gonna have one driver, just stick with Kurt and not try to get anybody else in here or
or
what. But
maybe no one else wanted to do it, or Kurt's willing to do it for the least amount of money. I don't know.
maybe. I mean, Kurt has really good input though because I mean he raced in the trucks for a while and
He
was really
did,
good at it.
and every time he talks, it's always like it's insightful. Usually too, it's not like when Darrell Waltrip started, everything he had to say was like smart. But anymore, it's like he just kind of babbled, and I hate to see it. And he kind of like I feel like Fox wanted him to be more of a personality of like a kooky, crazy grandpa kind of guy, and he took that the wrong way because I don't feel like that's who he was. But I don't know. Michael was certainly like they wanted Michael to do that, and he did it, and it's funny at times, but other times not so much.
Yeah, I mean, I've always liked Michael Waltrip. He can he can stay in that booth as long as he wants. I mean, I think we owe it to him, really. I mean, he loves doing this. Keep him in the sport.
No, no, but like the antics he would pull on pit road often just seemed like weird.
Yeah, yeah,
I did
be
always
what it
like it
be.
though. It was fun to see him run around and do stupid stuff,
Yeah.
like drop a taco on Denny Hamlin's deck lid. That was a good time.
So the final segment of the day is our getting around to it segment. So, um,
Kenny and I are both very lazy. We
yes.
procrastinate pretty bad. I'm an engineer. Kenny is like not. I'm not going to call you an engineer because that wouldn't be 100% correct, but you do have the mindset and are smart enough to be an engineer, so you're pretty much an engineer. But like,
Yeah, I work
we
with engineers.
procrastinate pretty bad, right?
Yeah. Well, I became a homeowner this past year, um, in January, and well, I didn't expect a pandemic to happen 2 months after I move in. That's not really what you expect. But so anything that I did have planned, I had to immediately put off, um, because you couldn't go out, you couldn't go to the hardware store, you couldn't call a contractor to help you out. So that kind of forced my hand. And then
Well, even if
after,
you could though, like everybody kind of got like furloughed or at least had their hours cut, so all the money you would have had to like dump into something just got erased.
yeah, I mean basically, I mean I was fine. I was on unemployment, but I didn't want to. I mean, since I didn't know what the future held, I wasn't going to go out and just start spending money.
Right? Exactly.
A lot of people did. I mean, I saw people just getting Amazon delivery upon Amazon delivery, like, just because they got their stimulus check and they got their unemployment. And they're like, "Woo, I'm rich, so let's just buy
Well, either
everything."
that or Amazon had a lot of stuff. Like there's Amazon Pantry now. Like my dad will get like every month we get like 6 deodorants of like Old Spice, and it's like just a recurring delivery of like every month. We get I think rice or something, well, like a basic food staple thing, every month with that too. And it was just easier because you didn't have to leave your house because there's COVID outside.
Yeah,
But
but
some people did get a bunch of stupid stuff. Yes.
yeah, this whole pandemic though has really put off any kind of house project that I've had. But you know, things are going all right, and I know our friend Brian. He's been building some NASCAR models, and found out that you were pretty interested in that. And I know Brian. He might actually do it today. He might live stream some of his model building, which he thought, he was telling me, he's like, yeah, it might be kind of like boring and stuff. And I was like, man, you should try it out. I'd at least tune in and hang out. What do you
Oh
think?
yeah, definitely. I mean, that's what half the time we're doing whenever he's doing his cup seasons. And then our 2003, I believe he just got done with the 82 season. He's going to start the 83 season soon. And whenever we watch, we're just kind of sitting there watching him. Sometimes we talk to him and crack jokes back and forth. So that's what he was doing with the model building. It'd be cool. And I was surprised that both you and he were into it. I like to do it. It's hard to find the time or the space because you need like a giant table's worth of space, and it's hard to like devote an entire table worth of like space to just building a NASCAR model. Um, but I like it a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I've never really been a model builder, but I enjoy looking at them and stuff like that. And the era of cars that he's building too is really cool.
It all
70s,
coincides,
80s. You
right?
know,
It coincides with what he's doing in NR 2003. It's the same cars,
right.
or at least
And
era.
yeah, and so that would be cool. Be interesting to see like his progress and how he does. It seems like he takes it pretty seriously and pays a lot of attention to detail. So that always makes it that much better. When your results are good. When
Yeah, it's
it's one of
really
those things you
a
have to pay attention to detail, or else it's going to come out like garbage.
Yep, and you'd think that other people won't notice, but you'll notice, and that's why it has to be like so impeccably well detailed and stuff. Because it mostly comes from you wanting to make a perfect model. It's a grind if you do it that way, but it's worth it in the end. Speaking of grinds, I know you're trying to grind out some I rating, Kenny.
Yeah, so I've been again procrastinating, but I want to get my I rating up. I think I can. I have the ability to get my I rating pretty darn high if I keep at it. The only problem, you have to obviously run races. But I've had a heck of a time. Like I finally this week, it's like okay, I'm gonna run a few races, and I've run like four of them, and I've lost I rating every time, every race so far. I had a string of really good finishes and officials, and then let's see, I ran a an ARCA race at Texas, and I got wrecked at that place, finished 13th. And then I ran a Legends race at Concord, made a mistake on my own. I spun out right away, finished ninth. And then just like yesterday or the day before, yeah, it was yesterday, I ran late model stocks at North Wilkesboro. Downloaded a setup that was way too loose, couldn't drive it, finished seventh. And then I ran street stocks at Lanier. I had a really good car there, started second, got wrecked, finished 13th. So instead of gaining I rating, I've actually lost probably about over 100 I rating. Just in like this last week, I'm down to 3456. So I need to take advantage of the off season here, run some races, see if I can get my I rating up on the oval side, and um, I really would like to actually make a run for Road to Pro at some point in my life. I know you don't really have a timetable. I mean, that one guy that won an pro race just recently, he was like 39 years old. So um, something I'd like to try to do at some point. I just gets tougher and tougher the higher your I rating gets.
Yep, be getting around to it. You'll get there someday.
Yeah, we'll see. I just need to do it, and run races and gain iRating little by little.
Part of it too, especially for Road to Pro, is getting the setups that are good, or at least competitive enough where you can showcase your driving talent.
Yeah, I mean, I have VRS, and the VRS setups seem to be pretty respectable. I wonder though if you get to the higher splits, if that won't necessarily cut it. Um, and Adam says it's hard racing official races too. Many young kids who wreck everyone, and I totally agree. I mean, a lot of times the races that I'm running the shorter races so I can pack more racing in a shorter time span. So I run street stocks and late model stocks and legends and stuff, and but those are lower class series, so you get the lower class drivers in there, and it. But I mean, even the higher class stuff can become a shit show too. Um, just one of those things where kind of luck goes into it. But I made plenty of mistakes on my own too, so I like to believe in making my own luck. So hopefully I can make some good luck next time I run those. Anyways, Austin, you got any final thoughts on the first episode? Is he muted? Well, obviously, Austin Boelke is now dead, so
Oh
I
no,
will.
no.
Oh, hey, he's come back.
Unfortunately,
Come,
unfortunately,
come back from the grave. I
I
see.
don't know what happened. My mic just got mute. But
But
no, no, no. Good,
y-
good episode. This is great. A good first one. Set the baseline comically low so we
yeah,
can
yeah,
come back stronger.
yeah. This first episode is probably kind of boring, just kind of a lot of information to take in. But I think next week we'll have our first guest, and we'll be recording these every Sunday about the same time, about 10 a.m. Eastern. Um, Next week I think is going to be our first real fun episode. We got our first guest. I'm not going to spoil it, but it'll be kind of a different vibe. We be vibing, as I like to say.
Yeah, it should be different to today, and it'll likely be different from the rest of the ones that follow it with based on like who we're having on, and of course that's subject to change. What we have on and who we have on, and what we do with them, and what we talk about, or how we structure the episodes. But by and large, they should follow a certain outline or a formula. So
Yeah, I mean it was nice to get this one over with, to get our general outline and get a gist for like what we have here, how long it would translate to as far as how long the stream would be, and it's a good length. I mean it's about an hour and a half that we've been live, so
yeah,
um,
respectable.
yeah, I was afraid that we'd be too short with the length of the podcast, but it's better to be um, long on time than short on time. So,
Yep.
but yeah, I think I'm gonna shut the stream down and talk to everybody next Sunday.
Good luck, Godspeed, folks.
Yep. Good luck and Godspeed.